So lately, I have realized that I have not been creating much art this year, at least as far as finished pieces go. And it's strange because my skill is at the highest level it's ever been. I'm able to complete a lot more of the ideas in my head, a little closer to what they look like in my brain, but I've been feeling really stuck. And I've been realizing that a lot of this is due to the amount of pressure I've put on myself. I feel like I have to perform at a certain level and make art that has like a profound idea behind it or is unique in some way. And that's just a lot. And it's hard to be creative when you're putting that much weight onto things. And so I decided that I'm going to put more focus into making what I'm going to term silly, goofy art. Just art that's fun, art that maybe doesn't have a ton of meaning behind it, but brings you joy. So come along with me today to make a silly, goofy piece of art. Welcome to the voiceover. So while this is going, I wanted to share a little bit more behind the inspiration of this piece and why I felt so drawn to making this concept in particular. So for a little backstory, my husband and I, we have this little tradition that started from back when we were dating, where we would take my iPad or a notebook or a sketchbook and one person would draw something, then pass it back, and the other person would draw something, and then slowly it would turn into a full-formed piece. Now, a lot of these are quite unhinged, but every once in a while, one of them will turn out. And we hadn't done this in a while, but I was meeting him at kind of a local cafe, and we decided to engage in this silly little tradition of ours. And I believe he was the one who started out, and it began as this mushroom in a forest, but like a mushroom person. But when it was passed to me, I turned it into a cat, and then it slowly turned into this picture of our cat, Eleanor, being present at a mouse birthday party, but she's hunting the mice. And it was just so silly and cute. And later I was showing it to some friends, and they're like, you should really recreate this, but in your own style. And I wasn't fully able to let go of that, and I decided to just go for it. Now, when I actually went and prepared the piece, I did make a few changes, and actually I attempted this painting before, like a week ago, and it didn't turn out the best, and part of it is I didn't really do enough planning, and I went in with super thick line work using gouache and just ended up not looking right. And so I went back to the drawing board, went back to my prepared sketch and did a little editing. And what I came out with was a lot more me. I don't know how to describe it. It just felt more like what I was going for. Anyways, to go back to some of the changes, I decided to get rid of the mushroom. I just couldn't figure out how to make it look right and make sense, and so instead I changed it into a party hat, and then I gave all the mice party hats. And I wanted it to be kind of, is the cat there because she's invited to the birthday party, or is she there because she is hunting the mice and they just invited her because they're all terrified? Honestly, I'm not sure. Now, I know if it was actually my cat, Eleanor, she would probably be there to destroy the world. I don't know. That's her personality. But kind of having that little connection that this cat is actually my cat, even though it's a little more loosely based on her, was really fun. I wasn't expecting that to get me so invested into everything. It kind of got me thinking that I haven't felt that way while creating art in a really long time. I think I've just put so much pressure on myself, both to have these like meaningful concepts, which honestly I didn't really achieve anyways, but I put a lot of pressure on myself to have like good art, serious art, or interesting art, and that pressure was actually inhibiting my creativity. So doing this activity with my partner where we were just having fun and not thinking too hard, I actually came up with something that was fun and that I ended up really enjoying when I decided to turn it into a more polished art piece. You know, I honestly think that we put way too much importance on art needing to feel profound and innovative all the time, and I think that that kind of takes some of the enjoyment out. Because when you think about it, when you're a kid, you're not thinking about that. You're just thinking about what kind of cool character or theme or silly thing that you can draw. Maybe it's, related to something you're really interested in, or maybe it's some made-up Pokemon if you were me as a kid, or maybe they're cringy anime drawings. But I had so much fun with that stuff when I was younger, and I feel like while taking art more seriously definitely led my art to getting a lot better, it did take some of the enjoyment out of that. And why pursue this if I'm not going to let myself be a little silly goofy and have fun? Like, I can create serious artwork or artwork with emotion in it if I want at times. That's also great, but I can also just make stuff that's fun. Even just thinking about the art that I really enjoy, some of it is on the more serious side, but a lot of it is also just kind of silly and fun. And I think that in a world that can feel very dark sometimes, indulging in that more childlike sense of play, especially in art, it brings me a lot of happiness and a lot of peace, and I think that that's something that we need more of. Something that can kind of lift our spirits. And I think that's something that can be really great about art and stuff that isn't so raw. Okay, that might not be the right word, and I've said serious many times, but I guess serious really is what I mean here. Because, again, art that maybe expresses some of the hardships in life is also really important, but I think that it's also good to show the things that make us happy and things that, light up our lives a little bit. Sorry, my language skills just aren't quite doing my ideas justice today. So enough with my rambling and deep thoughts. I kind of want to talk about my art process here because I feel like I've kind of fine-tuned my painting process over the years and found something that really works for me. And when I deviate from it, I find that I have a lot of problems, and I think that's actually why this is the second attempt at this piece and why this one actually worked out. And that is because I pre-planned the hell out of this painting. I took the original sketch and really made it as detailed as possible. I adjusted the composition many times, and then I planned out the full color palette. Beforehand, I had not in my first attempt, and it led me to guessing about my colors a lot, and it just left things feeling really unbalanced. But this time around, I went in and I already knew what colors I was going to use and how I needed to mix them, and it made the process go a lot quicker. I mean, this took me not nearly as long as it should have, or it would have in the past. But I guess if you're counting all the time I spent on Procreate, planning everything I was going to do, it probably did take around the same amount of time. But anyways, the actual painting process went a lot smoother after doing a lot of the thinking ahead of time, especially with a medium like watercolor, where if you add too much paint in the beginning and make things too dark, you really can't go back. So I feel like I was able to approach this with the right techniques in mind. I think in this second attempt, I was also able to approach things with a level of knowledge of what wasn't going to work for this piece, and also kind of what doesn't work for my style. I realized that while I do like using varied line weights, using really thick, bold lines at the moment doesn't really suit my style. I really like things to have a bit of a softness to them, and when I tried doing the line work with like thick, opaque gouache, it just clashed, and it didn't really go with the vision that I had, and it didn't really feel like it worked with what I was trying to create. So that was actually a big reason why I redid it. I did the line work thinking it would tie things together, and it did the opposite, and that's when I decided I wanted to go back to the drawing board. So when I went to do the line work this time around, you'll see here in a little bit, I mostly just used a little bit of watercolor paint and then colored pencil. I honestly don't know if I could do watercolor without using colored pencils as well. They're just great for adding in extra little details when you want a little more control than a paintbrush can give you. And it's a fun way to add a little bit of extra color variation and texture, and there's just something so satisfying about using colored pencil on top of watercolor. It's just the best. I will say that the colored pencils were also pretty necessary for adding some detail to the mice and doing the line work for the mice, because even though this is an 8x10, which I guess isn't that large of a painting, the mice were little, and it is really hard to paint within the lines and do details, especially for their like funky little eyes. There was just no way that I was going to be able to do that with paint and have it look good, and so I sharpened my colored pencils about as sharp as they could get, and a lot of the gaps in between the footage are actually just me sharpening the pencils again to keep as sharp of a point as I could to do all the little details. And, you know, speaking of the mice, they're my favorite part. They're just so goofy and fun. Gosh, man, there should be a counter for how many times I've said goofy, fun, and silly, and serious in this video. Anyways, they just, I don't know. I didn't know if they'd fit in stylistically with the cat, but somehow it just works. They're just so cute and weird, and they all look like they're just scared to death about the fact that they have a cat attending their little birthday party. Unless the cat's a friend, again. You know, I'm actually going to leave that up to viewer interpretation. Was the cat invited? Was she not? You know, her tongue's out. Who knows what that means? You know, at first I wanted it to really look like she was going to be a predator, but I also kind of wanted it to be fun. No need to make it too aggressive, you know? With all that being said, here is the reveal. Overall, this is one of my favorite things that I've created this year, and I hope you all enjoyed the process. I will see you all next time.